The round of 8 is set, the ROVAL is done, but are we ready to see it back on the 2024 schedule? Holy crap, I'm still coming off that high from being back at the racetrack. I love it, love being able to do what I do, and I love getting to meet all of you as well. Seriously, like all the fans and even just the folks at NASCAR and in the media center. It was such a fantastic weekend of learning and growing and reporting. So thank you all so much for making this possible. I appreciate it a lot. But getting on to the racing though, with the Xfinity Series, Sam Mayer dominated that entire event to win his way into the next round of the playoffs. He was in a must-win situation, so good job for him and that team. Unfortunately though, that means that Josh Berry, Jeb Burton, Parker Kligerman, and Daniel Hemrick, who ran a practically perfect event, did not make it to the next round of the playoffs. Daniel Hemrick really lost it on that last lap where he had a 3-wide move made on him by Parker Kligerman, and it was looking like they were going to point their way in. So that really does suck. But as for Sam Mayer, though, I feel like we can call him the new road course king of the Xfinity Series. With Ty Gibbs gone, AJ Allmendinger gone, and Austin Cindric gone from that series, there was really nobody to take that place, and I think Sam has cemented himself in that role. So again, congrats to that one team. They will continue fighting for a championship. As for the Cup Series, though, kind of a different story. AJ Allmendinger, a non-playoff contender, of course, won this event, dominated the last portion of it, and I just gotta say, when Kaulig wins, I feel like it's a win for the sport because there is no other team in the Cup, Xfinity, so maybe Truck Garage. I feel like the truck drivers, when they win a race, they get pretty emotional, which I love to see, but no other team at a higher level gets as emotional or as just wholesome, I feel like, as Kaulig does when there is a win. It is so positive for the sport, and you can tell, like, this team really does care. You don't just see it, but you feel it, and how close-knit this team is. AJ had speed all weekend, which to me going in was very surprising because Kaulig has just kind of really missed the mark this season as a whole, and we expected them to be good at road courses. Didn't really have that going for them. At super speedways, sometimes they were able to hit on something, but mostly it was a miss. So when they came in with speed, I was like, okay, AJ has something to win this race. And it wasn't an easy race win. He had to fight off drivers like Ty Gibbs, who in my opinion also had a race-winning car, trying to fight for his first Cup Series win of his career. He had to fight Kyle Busch, who was in a must-win situation, trying everything he could to get that win, and William Byron, who was going for, I don't even know what number win it was for him for the season because he's been so dominant, but with about 10 laps to go, they had a restart, and Byron was trying to charge to get that first position, and he just wasn't able to do it. I mean, AJ was able to be pretty much flawless on that last few laps, so congrats to him, that 16 team, a well-deserved win. Before every single race weekend, every single week, period, the question with AJ Allmendinger is, what are his 2024 plans? What is Kaulig planning to do with him? What is Kaulig planning to do, period? Because the only thing we know is that Daniel Hemrick is moving up to that 31 car while Justin Haley moves to RWR next season. So that's the only thing that's really set in stone for that organization. But with AJ, before the race, he was asked again, what are your 2024 plans? And he was like, I would like to return to the Cup level. That's what he's wanting to do. In the post-race press, of course, this question is going to be asked. Matt Kaulig answered it, and he said, quote, "We just haven't announced yet exactly what we're doing. I think we're pretty clear on what we're doing. We just haven't announced anything." And then Chris Rice chimed in and told us to wait for the announcement. So there you go. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with the Kaulig organization in 2024 and where AJ Allmendinger is going to end up. I honestly have no clue. It could go either way between him going back to Xfinity, staying in Cup full-time, maybe part-time something. A little tease for the media as we all try to dig for the story there, but I'm just going to let it be until they make the official announcement. But yeah, future for Kaulig hopefully announced pretty soon. William Byron finished in that second position, and his playoff run has been unbelievable. A first, second, and second in this round of the playoffs alone. Those are the numbers that championship contenders and just championship winners are made of. He has been so consistent, and especially in this round, the most chaotic round of the playoffs, it's unbelievable. So keep an eye out for that 24 team as we head into the round of 8. Like I said, Kyle Busch was trying to get the first position from AJ Allmendinger with around 10 to go. Unfortunately, though, on that restart, he spun his tires, and that kind of took him out of contention for the win. But he did have a really strong car during the last half of the race. So, I mean, nothing to hang their head about, really. It was a kind of up and down battle for Kyle Busch. This entire season, he started off really strong and then kind of started to fade, and the playoffs were really hit and miss for that number 8 team. But again, just wasn't able to make it stick, and he fails to make it to the next round of the playoffs. Like I said, with Ty Gibbs, had a race-winning car, and this is the best finish of his Cup Series career in that 4th position. I think a win is coming for him. I don't think it's this year, but I definitely think next year we're going to see the number 54 in victory lane. In 5th, we have Joey Logano, and then 6th, Tyler Reddick. And going into this weekend with practice and qualifying, I really did think we were going to see a 23-11 racing win. Bubba Wallace, maybe not so much, knowing that he still struggles at the road courses a little bit. He is getting better, but Tyler Reddick, knowing his history in qualifying on the pole, I'm like, he has the track position, he's going to go for it. And then they had some issues that I'm going to be honest with you all, I'm not really sure what's happening. They were told to maybe reset the ECU. They were talking about maybe running out of fuel. The team was like, you guys aren't out of fuel, that's impossible. So maybe some sort of an electrical issue with the car, not really sure. Bubba did say like, things were sputtering. So just kind of chaotic of a race for 23-11 Racing, but at least Reddick was able to kind of bounce back from that and finish in the top 10. Chris Buescher finished in the 7th position overall, very consistent. And in 8th, speaking of consistency, Alex Bowman, every time he's gone to the ROVAL, he's finished inside the top 10. Same story for him this time around. He's had a rough season. Just straight up, he has. So I'm excited to see that this was a consistent run for them. And he came into this weekend very positive, talked to the media about it. So good result for that 48 team, a much needed good result. Chase Elliott finished in that 9th position, and I will say at the ROVAL, it's very historic for him to have to come back from a lot of adversity, and I feel like this race kind of presented that to him and his team. He had a race-winning car that was on the right side of a strategy, and then within 48 laps of this race, there was a caution. He was about to go to pit road. He swerved just to avoid like a Kevin Harvick type of penalty that we saw a few weeks ago when Reddick crashed out, and then Harvick was going to pit road and things like that. So he avoided that mess, which was a positive. He also won the stage, which was a positive. On a negative, though, that meant that he had to go to pit road when everyone else was pit, and it put him back in track position, so he had to fight back forward through the field. That caution was because Josh Bilicki and Corey LaJoie were exiting pit road, and they collided into each other. Toby Christie spoke to Josh Bilicki following the race, and here's what he had to say about that whole incident.
No, it's the 3rd one this year with the Spire car. Almost like we got a target paint in our back, so it's frustrating. I mean, we're out of the pits, and I was pushing pretty hard on those tires. He came in, and I saw him in my mirror, so I gave him room. I was in the middle of the track, and I don't know if he just overdrove and just came up into us and just spun us. So it really sucks because we had set ourselves up for great track position come the start of stage 3, and we actually had a really, really good car. It was really hard to pass. So, I think if we would have been 15th restarting stage 3, we would have stayed there, 15th to 20th. And for us, a small team, that's a great day. So that, I can't say it killed our day, but it set us behind because then we had to restart at the back once we finally got our lap back, and it's so hard to pass. I mean, you look at some of these cars around us. I mean, we finished behind a Penske car with quadruple our budgets. That's a win for us, but 26 when you could have finished 15th to 20th, that stings.
Are you going to talk to Corey about the incident and see what was going on there?
I'll let him talk to me. Last time he talked to me, it was a really half-assed apology. So I'm not going to find him, and I'm not going to make it easy on him next time we race together.
So that was Josh Bilicki's side of the story there, but if we jump back to Chase Elliott and how this affected his race, he was fighting through to get track position. Then around lap 67, they thought they had a right rear tire going down. He went to pit road, and then with a caution around lap 76, they were able to kind of save their day from that point on. So nice recovery for that 9 team. So Chase Elliott, I think, did the best they could with the situations that were presented to them and that were around them. Same with Ross Chastain. He finished in the 10th position, will not advance to the next round of the playoffs. And going into this race, he was in a really dicey point situation. He got points in stage 1 and stage 2, but again, based on just how the day went, it just wasn't enough. And where he was in points, he kind of had to win this event. So unfortunate for that Trackhouse team. They'll try to get him again in 2024 with a Busch sponsorship. I'm excited for the Busch paint schemes on the car. So maybe get a championship in that scheme. So fingers crossed maybe for the one in 2024, but we'll have to see. The rest of your playoff contenders, Ryan Blaney, his car was better than it was in practice and qualifying. It was, though, the issue of track position. Once you're mired back in traffic, it is really hard to move forward. For Kyle Larson, he battled during this race. He made a lot of pretty dicey moves, but that was just to get him moving forward as he was in a really interesting point situation. He wrecked during practice, was not able to qualify, so he had to start to the back of the field. And when the race went green, he was minus 13 to the good, so they clawed and scraped their way to make it to the next round of the playoffs. Again, the drive of that 5 team, they do not quit, and I would say moving on to this round of 8, they are 3 solid tracks for that 5 team, so I would expect Kyle Larson to make it to the championship 4 unless something crazy happens. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but a good rally for Kyle Larson. We had Christopher Bell in 15th. Really good pit strategy calls from Adam Stevens. Again, with how the cautions fell, things just didn't really fall their way. I know Christopher Bell got caught up in some incidents during the race on Sunday, so not the day that they wanted to have, but again, they still remain playoff eligible. And then in 16th, Bubba Wallace. You could tell, just if you were watching from the track or even from your TV, you could tell he gave it everything he had, and he might have been able to point his way in if the stages worked out a little bit better for him and his team, and if he wasn't spun out near the end of the race. Daniel Suarez went 3 wide with Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson. He was trying to outbrake those two, and he locked his rear tires, and in that process, he turned into Austin Cindric, and Cindric got into Wallace, and Wallace went around. Where this hurt the team is that Wallace did not perform a stop-and-go penalty. He kind of just rolled through the chicane. Granted, though, he was kind of spun into the chicane, but at that point, according to NASCAR rule, regardless of your situation, you got to stop and then you go, and Wallace rolled through. Therefore, he had to do a stop-and-go penalty on the front stretch. So unfortunate for that team. I don't know if he would have performed the penalty correctly the first time, if he would have had enough points to make it into the playoffs. I think when it was all said and done, it wouldn't have really mattered. He knew going into this race kind of where they were points-wise, and he was okay about it. He made peace with it. He posted on social media about the whole situation, but a really good run for Bubba Wallace. And coming into the season, he wasn't confident in his road course abilities, and like he said post-race in his comments, I would say that he's definitely worked hard to improve those skills as the season's gone on, so great momentum to carry through the rest of the season. Hopefully they close it out really strong, and then carrying it into 2024. Same thing for Brad Keselowski in that 18th position. He had some stop-and-go penalties, just was not the day that 6th team needed, but hopefully carrying that strong momentum that RFK has had this season to 2024, going for a championship hopefully that year. Chris Buescher, however, will remain playoff eligible. He moves on to the next round. Skirting by Martin Truex Jr. in that 20th position, Joseph Strigley actually has a stat for us here saying that Martin Truex Jr. is the first driver in this playoff elimination format to advance to the round of 8 without scoring a single top 10 finish in the playoffs, which is absolutely wild considering the regular season that Martin Truex had, your regular season champion. So it does go to show the regular season does matter, because if it wasn't for his consistency there and getting those stage points, those stage wins, and those wins period, he would not be continuing in the playoffs right now. So the points do reset, by the way. He moves back up to the top of the food chain. But again, if this next round is anything like it has been the first 2 rounds, it's going to be a tough one for Martin Truex Jr. But I think this is where they turn it around. I really do. But we're going to discuss that later. We'll have to see. Finally, in the last position, not finishing this race, Denny Hamlin. Thank God he locked himself into the playoffs already on points alone, because this was just not a good race for him. He had spun around, and then a few laps later, around lap 76, Hamlin was going deep into the front chicane, got out of control, and went around. What did him in, though, was that damage from that 42 car of Mike Rockenfeller making contact with his rear quarter panel, breaking the toe link. So overall, a rough day for that 11 team, but again, like Martin Truex Jr., they lived to fight another day. Was going into that race, though, in a much better situation than Truex was. So Wallace, Keselowski, Chastain, and Busch are out of the playoffs, and we have our 8 remaining drivers. Those drivers are William Byron plus 20 to the good. Then we have Truex plus 15, Hamlin plus 11, Larson plus 3. Then we have our drivers that are in the danger zone. Buescher minus 3, Reddick and Bell minus 8, and Ryan Blaney minus 10. I've said it before, and I will say it again until I am blue in the face. I really appreciate that the round of 8 has tame tracks. And by this, I mean you're not having super speedways, you're not having road courses. They are your basic 1.5 mile short tracks, so these drivers can really show what they're made of. At this point, we should have the 8 best drivers in the field. Obviously, yes, I know some of them maybe get through by luck if they win a super speedway race, but this season, I don't feel like that's been the case necessarily. I feel like the drivers that have won the races have definitely earned it, whether it is a chaotic track or not. And though the points are tight around that cutoff line and Larson is only plus 3 to the good, I feel like he will most likely make it to the championship 4. These tracks suit him so well in the round of 8. I would be shocked if he missed it. These tracks are good for Hendrick Motorsports, period. So put Byron in the championship 4 as well. Same with Denny Hamlin. He might struggle at Vegas a little bit. Statistically, it's not his best track, but look at his stats at Martinsville. Look at them in Homestead. I think Hamlin's going to be pretty okay going into the championship 4 unless something crazy happens. Now, the question mark for me, kind of alluded to this earlier, is Martin Truex Jr. Does he make the championship 4 with the bad luck he's had in the playoffs? And with that, you look at the stats and you say he probably has a pretty decent chance. But I also know that, again, the playoffs haven't really worked in his favor, so maybe this is a wild card. Maybe we see Chris Buescher in the round of 4 with the season that he's had. These tracks are generally good for him, though Vegas for RFK in the spring, not the best, so that might be a struggling point for them, but they are pretty decent at the short tracks. Same thing with Ryan Blaney. Martinsville is his best track statistically, or at least one of the top 3 tracks for him. Historically, Vegas is good for that team, but Homestead is where I feel like Blaney is going to have a little bit of issues, but I feel that they are confident that they could go and win Vegas. Tyler Reddick too. I mean, he could make it to the championship 4. Homestead's a great track for him. Vegas, sure. Martinsville, he might have a shot. I mean, I feel like it's anyone's game that are right now below that cutoff line to make it into the championship 4 if Martin Truex Jr. isn't able to execute the way that we know that he could in the regular season. So I don't know, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but it will be an exciting last 4 races. Oh my God, 4 races of the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series season. Phoenix is right around the corner. That's pretty wild. I'm going to stop ranting now. Let's rate this race above or below the yellow line. I think my biggest concern or issue with the race that we had at the ROVAL this year was just the inability to pass. It was very difficult, and I don't know if this was any better than last year, any worse than last year. I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but it stuck out like a sore thumb this time. If you did not have good position on that restart, if you were not on the top row in the first line, getting ready to go to the green, you weren't going to get the lead, period. So I think that's where Allmendinger was able to take advantage of it, and I really do feel you won or lost this race on your pit strategy. That's really what it came down to, because you could not advance through the field. It was so difficult, whether it was because of tires, whether it was because of the aero package. I'm still confused. I will say though, with the stage cautions coming back, I do feel like it helped the entertainment value of this race, and that's what NASCAR had hoped for. So kudos to NASCAR for making that decision. I'm still not a huge fan of changing the rules in the middle or near the end of the season, but I do think for entertainment value alone, I think this was much needed. And on a positive for these playoff teams, though it made strategy a little wonky, it gave the playoff contenders more of a chance to get position on a restart. So it gave them a better chance to advance themselves to the round of 8. With all that said, I'm going to give this race a 55%, so just above the yellow line. It's just with the road course racing in general this year, wasn't a huge fan of it, and I'm nervous about it next year because if we don't fix this package during the offseason, I'm going to be a little nervous. I know, though, NASCAR is going to get to work trying to make these changes to make everything better for next season at the short tracks and at the road courses. So fingers crossed for 2024, but this was the last road course of the 2023 season. That is it. That is our race from the ROVAL, and kicking off the round of 8 this coming weekend, we are at Las Vegas. Casino time, so if you're going there, have a lot of fun, but be safe, be responsible. And in the meantime, if you're traveling or if you're just looking for more NASCAR news, make sure to visit TobyChristieCom and AboveTheYellowLine.com. Also check out our social media pages and the ATYL store to get your merch. What a dream weekend. Oh my God, I would love being back at the track. Thank you all so much for your support, watching the content, and until next time, I will see you all later. Bye. Want more NASCAR news? Make sure to click the videos on the screen and the links in the description.